Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Capitalize Your Best podcast. My name is Gordon Duncan. I'm the owner of Capitalize Marketing and Consulting, and we help you capitalize on what you do best to grow your revenue. This is our Wednesday show where we help you grow your marketing and your business. I also have a Monday podcast called This Is Going to Hurt, which is based on personal growth. But this Wednesday, every week, we debut an episode where we help you grow your marketing and consulting. Today, I've got that tantalizing title of how you can turn $0 into $250,000. And here's what I mean. Starting back on my personal growth journey around 2017 and 2018, I was coming out of my fight with epilepsy. Now, it doesn't mean that my epilepsy was gone, but it meant that I was starting to put my brain back together. And part of that was reading things about personal development, reading things about personal growth, mind development. And I read books like The School of Greatness, or I read books like 4 Hour Work Week. They were very entrepreneur based. I began to dip into some of the classics like Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. But I knew that I wanted to get back to growing a business. Prior to my seizures, I had been working as an optometric consultant, and I had to take a break from that. I wanted to get back to growing that. And so what I did is I didn't have any money. So I started with what's free. Now, what was free at that time? What was free is exactly what you're doing now, listening to podcasts. And I did a deep dive. I really did. I dove into a podcast called The Cardone Zone, which is by Grant Cardone. And he used to put out episodes like 5 days a week. He had one called Young Hustlers, and he had one with him and his wife, and he had a TV studio, and they were putting out shows Monday through Friday. And I remember at that time, every Saturday, my daughters and I would clean the house. And essentially, I would just put on the headphones and I would listen to podcasts for several hours. And that began to grow and grow my business and my marketing since. And so I was spending no money of that. All the podcasts were free. But along the way, you would hear offers for programs. And I eventually moved into spending $99 on a couple of the Cardone programs. I began spending $99 here or $29 here. My zero went to small investments. In those small investments, I was able to apply what I learned and I was able to grow my business again. And I was doing things like ClickFunnels, Grant Cardone, other folks. Like, it wasn't just him, but anybody who had a program that I thought was super practical, I began investing my time in that. At the same time, Amy was doing some direct marketing, and so she was investing. And so we'd gone from free to these incremental costs. We were purchasing programs and implementing the best we could. Then I wanted to make a bigger step. And so the bigger step for me was to go off to a conference, and all of a sudden I'd be spending hundreds of dollars. So I did a couple of those. I spent hundreds of dollars, went to a conference, always make sure that I applied what I learned, turned that into revenue, and got a positive ROI. Well, at that point, I was like, I'm ready for some coaching. And I invested in several coaching programs. I invested in the One Funnel Away Challenge by Russell Brunson, Cardone U by Grant Cardone. And eventually, as the company made more and more money, I began to invest in a big investment, and that was the John Maxwell Leadership Program, and that was around $7,000 or $8,000. I wanted to become a John Maxwell certified coach. Well, my certification for that ended around 2020. I never got to go to Florida for the big event because that was during COVID. But I went through those programs, and then I was like, how do I turn these into revenue? And so every single thing I invested in, it was like, if I'm going to spend money on it, I'm going to have the personal discipline to apply it to turn it into revenue. And along the way, I kept buying more programs. I did the 30-day challenge with Russell Brunson. And eventually I knew what I really had to do is to get from the consulting I've been doing and create a program. And I invested in a company that doesn't exist anymore called Premier Excel. And that was, if I'm not mistaken, $7,000. And I created the Capitalize Your Best program, which was in a much smaller form then than it formed then as it is now. But I was like, I've got to get the return on this. So I went through the program quickly. I created a Capitalize Your Best program. I began implementing those things. I stayed with that program for a year and a half, eventually left it when I felt like I had learned what I could. I'm very thankful for those guys. And Premier Excel doesn't exist anymore. The owners there, great guys, split, started two different companies. And so then it was like, well, where else do I invest? Well, then I invested in a sales training program with Jay Lee, the sales ninja, and he helped me with my sales. And in every one of those situations, I did the homework. I did incremental investments in coaching. I got an ROI because I was going to be faithful to what was being taught. If it didn't work, it was going to be because the program didn't work, not because I didn't implement it. If I bought it, I implemented it. Now, if I bought it and it was garbage, it happens. I was like, well, I'm not going to waste my time on that. But I gave every program I purchased its fair shake. And eventually that enabled us to grow Capitalized Marketing to beyond $250,000 a year company. And now, as always, I still have coaches. I have mentors, which are personal people who guide me one-on-one through challenges and overall business and marketing challenges. But then I pay for coaches to help me with specific skills. But here's the thing. I started with zero and then I moved up step by step. So that's part of what we do here. I mean, Capitalized Marketing, we put out hundreds of pieces of content every single week. This podcast is free. We have entry-level programs. I have a 30-day program that people can try. I even have a 2-week program where folks can say, okay, let me get my feet wet. Let me see if I can do this. I make sure they're super practical. They're full of resources. I have a 2-week, a 30-day, I have a 90-day, a 6-month, and a 12-month program. When you finish the 12-month program, then I have the CEO program. But the whole idea is I have practical, proven resources that as people work through, there's the next step for them to grow. That's my encouragement to you. As you're taking in this free content, I'm going to keep putting out free content because I know there's always someone starting it free. Then I encourage you to find the program that will help you get started. And so if you want to know more about our 14-day program, reach out to me. And the good thing is every time you purchase one of our programs, what you donate towards that program goes towards the next program. And so that way you're always applying towards the next program. But if you want to get started, we will help you. We will help you grow your marketing, help you grow your business. If you do what we tell you to do and you go through the course, you will grow, and then you can roll it going on and on. I never thought, I get the most I've ever paid at one point in time was $24,000. I never thought I'd spend that much on a program, but I got a return of investment from it and I kept going. The idea is to ultimately be able to pay for more expensive and more profitable programs that will help you take the next step. So my next one is who can help me move beyond the $250,000 mark revenue in a year and go from there. So my friends, start from zero, move up, purchase programs that are affordable for you, apply, and then apply it, grow, get to the next one and go from there. You'll take a different path and journey than I did, but the ones I took got me there. Did I waste some money on a program? Sure, a few here or there, but I always gave it a shot. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to stick with it. But if it does, I'm going to stick with it until I get to the end of its usefulness. So friends, keep taking in this free information. If you want to grow your marketing and your business, reach out to me. We have a 14-day program. We have a 30-day program, a 90-day program, a 6-month, 12, and a CEO program. But I promise you, we will always give you daily free content no matter what. So figure out what your goal is, get where you need to go, find the program, purchase it, and apply it. Now, quick story as I wrap up. I was speaking to someone recently, and we've been talking for 5 months. And we got down to a 30-day trial and affordable. We scaled it to what they could afford and finally said, I just don't know if I can afford to do it. And I told him, listen, money and time always have to align. However, if it's not me, you're going to have to find out what you have to invest in to take the next step. You're not just going to naturally have a bunch of money come in. You're going to have to apply new tools and resources. So if it's not me, figure out who it is. They're waiting. I'm waiting. Hopefully they'll choose us and we'll get them scaled from there. So folks, figure out what you need, find the program that best fits your need, reach out to me. We'll let you know. If we don't work, we'll tell you who does, and scale that zero to way beyond $250,000. And I can't wait to see what you do next. Thanks, friends. Look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.